The Legend of Jigong Chapter 44.
The narrative opens with Jigong speaking to a man named Zhao Fengming, and Zhao asks the monk what kind of miraculous medicine he needs to cure this particular eye condition.
And Jigong says he needs a medicine primer.
A Yao Yanzi, right. Now, for you listening who might not know, a medicine primer is a very real concept in traditional Chinese medicine. It's a specific ingredient used to guide the primary act of medicine to the correct meridian or organ in the body.
Yeah, it acts as a sort of biological targeting system.
Exactly. But Jigong's prescription is just completely absurd. He points to his own ragged footwear and says, this pair of shoes is the medicine primer.
Which is funny, but the underlying logic of traditional medicine in this era relied heavily on harmonizing different elements, energies, physical substances.
Right.
So because the framework is so holistic, the ingredients used for a Yao Yinzi could sometimes be highly unusual. They relied on symbolic or associative properties rather than just, biochemical ones.
People wouldn't necessarily question it immediately.
Exactly. Jigong totally exploits this cultural acceptance of medicinal mysticism.
He really does. But he doesn't stop at the shoes. He tells Zhao that the shoes need to be packed with a highly specific inventory of other items. He requests the 4 treasures of the study to be brought out.
That's the brush, the ink, the paper, and the inkstone, for those wondering.
Yes, the foundational tools of scholarship. And he uses them to write down this bizarre exact list, hands it to Zhao, and instructs Zhao's servant, this guy named Zhao Fu, to pack all these items into a cloth bundle, a bao fu.
He's very insistent about it.
Super insistent. He says Zhao Fu must carry this specific bundle and follow him, stating, without the medicine primer, this cannot be done.
I think we really need to look at the psychology of authority operating in the scene, because by demanding the 4 treasures of the study, Jigong is actively co-opting the physical tools of bureaucracy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like the brush and ink carry immense cultural weight in classical Chinese society. They are the instruments of official decrees, legal documents, scholarship. By using these specific tools to write his absurd list, he clothes his eccentricity in the garments of formal authority.
So they don't even question it.
Right. The people around him don't question the logic of packing old shoes into a bundle because the request is delivered with the rigid formality of a medical and scholarly expert.
They are completely blinded by the ritual of it all. I mean, he is assembling the components of a highly tactical legal snare right in front of them. But because he calls it a medicine primer and writes it down with a scholar's brush, they just nod and follow orders.
He is basically weaponizing their deference to authority and, their expectation of his own inscrutable divine nature.
It's masterful. So once the bundle is packed, Jigong gives the servant some secret instructions and sends him away. So now, Jigong is just walking the streets alone, and he starts singing a mountain song. And the lyrics of this song offer a really jarring contrast to the intricate trap he's currently building.
The lyrics are a fascinating study in projected harmlessness.
Yeah, let's break them down.
So he sings, attain freedom and be carefree. The carefree person is deeply joyful. Wealth and honor are predestined by a previous life. Poverty is also what your fate brings. Let you use your schemes and plots. It is hard to bypass the Lord of Heaven.
Wait, I have to jump in here. The contradiction is glaring. He is strolling down the street, singing a ballad about how you shouldn't use schemes and plots, how everything is left to fate, while he is literally in the middle of executing a premeditated, multi-layered scheme.
Right, it's incredibly ironic. The song continues, I advise you to jump out of this hazy illusion. To be freely carefree is truly good. The wine in the cup is not empty. The sorrow in the heart must be swept away.
It's like a chess grandmaster whistling a carefree tune to disarm their opponent right before a brutal checkmate.
That's a perfect analogy. Consider the function of a signal jammer in electronic warfare.
Okay.
A jammer doesn't just block a signal. It often broadcasts noise to confuse the enemy's radar, making it impossible for them to lock onto the actual threat.
Oh, wow.
Jigong's song operates on the exact same principle, but in a social environment. Criminals who are fleeing or hiding are hypervigilant. They're constantly scanning their environment for town guards, magistrates, or anyone moving with, purpose and authority.
So if Jigong walked down the street with the focused demeanor of an investigator, a guilty person would instantly put their guard up.
Precisely. By broadcasting the signal of a drunken, carefree fool who leaves everything to fate, he essentially makes himself invisible to a predator's radar. He appears entirely inconsequential.
It lowers the threat perception of the entire street. It allows him to just observe the environment without altering the behavior of the people in it. And this passive observation yields immediate results because, as he approaches the west gate of the city, he spots his target.
Tang also known as Tang Yula.
Yes, Tang Er. He's rushing forward carrying his own cloth bundle. The local people on the street are calling out to him, acting neighborly, saying, "Hey, Tang Er, you're leaving. We didn't even get to see you off. What's the rush?"
And how does he react?
He doesn't even stop. He just yells back over his shoulder that he received an urgent letter from home and has to leave immediately. And Jigong watches this brief interaction and instantly decides, I need to catch this person to get things done.
While the text doesn't explicitly spell out a Sherlock Holmes-style deduction, the behavioral anomalies are very clear here.
Yeah, he stands out.
Tang is breaking the social rhythm of the street. In a tight-knit community, ignoring social pleasantries and rushing away indicates a really high cognitive load. He is prioritizing speed over social cohesion.
His tight grip on the bundle, his haste, his weak excuse about an urgent letter. These are the micro-expressions of flight.
Exactly. Jigong recognizes the anomaly immediately.
He locks onto him. But once the target is acquired, the monk doesn't just arrest him. He initiates this bizarre, escalating campaign of psychological harassment to break him down. The way he initiates the pursuit completely subverts our expectations of law enforcement.
He doesn't run up and detain the man. He doesn't yell for the guards.
No, Tang is rushing away, looking over his shoulder, and realizes this ragged, singing monk is tailing him. Tang decides to test the waters. He puts his bundle down, sits on it, and waits to see what the monk will do.
Tang is attempting to force an interaction on his own terms here. He wants to know if he's actually being followed or if it's just a coincidence.
And Jigong walks right up to Tang sits down on the ground directly across from him, tilts his head up, and just stares. He doesn't say a word. He just locks eyes with him in an unblinking, dead-eyed stare.
It's so unnerving.
I want you listening to this to think about how heavily regulated eye contact is in our public spaces. Think about being on a crowded subway or a bus. If a stranger sits across from you and locks eyes with you and just refuses to look away, your heart rate instantly spikes.
Oh, absolutely. The sociologist Irving Goffman actually coined the term civil inattention to describe how we manage public spaces.
Civil inattention.
Yeah. We glance at strangers to acknowledge their presence, and then we deliberately look away to signal that we aren't a threat and that we respect their privacy.
That makes total sense.
By refusing to look away, Jigong is shredding the social contract. He's establishing dominance and forcing Tang into a state of hyper-awareness. Tang's goal is to remain inconspicuous, right? To be a ghost slipping out of the city. Jigong's stare acts as a massive, unavoidable spotlight.
It's brilliant. Tang's anger flares up. He snaps, "Monk, what are you looking at me for?" And Jigong responds with a loud, hearty laugh, and then asks, "What is your surname?" Tang, probably thrown off balance by the laugh, answers, "My surname is Tang. Why do you ask?"
And Jigong says, "As soon as you say your name is Tang, I know what your full name is."
Yes. Tang takes the bait and asks what he is called. And Jigong delivers this juvenile insult saying, "You are called Tang Yula, Tang Oil Wax."
Now, this specific tactic, the childish insult, often puzzles modern readers. If you're tracking a dangerous fugitive, why resort to playground name-calling? It seems counterproductive.
Why poke the bear, right? If Tang is dangerous, why do this? I would argue it's because Jigong isn't trying to interrogate him. He's trying to hijack his nervous system.
Yes, the psychology of the troll.
Exactly. When you are executing a high-stakes escape, your brain is relying heavily on the prefrontal cortex. You are mapping routes, managing your demeanor, calculating risks. But when someone relentlessly trolls you with nonsensical insults, it creates massive cognitive dissonance. It forces you out of that logical state and triggers the amygdala, the emotional processing center.
That's a very precise assessment. By using an insult like oil wax, which implies something that melts or becomes slippery under pressure, Jigong is flooding Tang system with irritation and anger.
And anger narrows focus.
It does. Tang goes from being a calculating fugitive managing a complex environment to an annoyed man fixated entirely on a single, highly irritating stimulus. Jigong induces cognitive tunnel vision.
It's so manipulative. Tang says, "You don't even know me. Why are you opening your mouth just to joke with me?" He grabs his bundle in a huff and storms off. But Jigong doesn't let up. He follows him, maintaining a distance of about a mile, just continually yelling at the top of his lungs, "Tang Yula, wait for me!" He is denying Tang any sense of anonymity or peace.
The continuous shouting prevents Tang nervous system from returning to a baseline state. The stress hormone cortisol remains elevated.
He can't calm down.
Right. This sustained psychological pressure is designed to exhaust Tang Er's mental reserves before any physical confrontation even begins.
So eventually, Tang Er reaches a small market town. He's stressed, he's being trailed by a screaming madman, and he decides he needs a sanctuary. He spots a tavern. He reasons that the monk looks destitute and won't have the money to enter a business establishment, so he decides to duck inside and wait the monk out.
It's a logical move under normal circumstances.
Yeah, Tang Er sets his precious bundle down, asks the tavern waiter to keep an eye on it, and steps next door to buy some cold dishes, as the tavern only sells wine, dried tofu, and dumplings.
Tang Er's decision to enter the tavern is a reliance on structural social boundaries. He assumes the rules of commerce, the requirement of capital to occupy space, will act as a shield against a beggar.
But he's so wrong.
He fundamentally miscalculates the nature of his adversary. The physical space of the tavern actually becomes the crucible where Jigong shatters the remaining boundaries.
Shatters is the right word. Tang Er returns from buying his side dishes, walks into the tavern, and realizes his sanctuary has been completely breached. Jigong is inside. And he isn't just inside. He is physically sitting directly on top of Tang Er's bundle.
Wow.
He's using it as a seat cushion. Tang Er immediately confronts the waiter, demanding to know why he didn't watch the bundle. The waiter tells the monk to get off the customer's belongings, and Jigong, with a completely straight face, replies, "If it's his, give it to him. I just picked it up, I'll just pretend I lost it again."
The spatial dynamic here is critical. In ancient China, a traveler's bundle contained literally everything they needed to survive. Their funds, their identification, their extra clothing.
Just their whole life in a bag.
Exactly. And for a fugitive, it holds the evidence or the spoils of their crime. By physically sitting on it, Jigong exerts complete dominance over Tang Er's most vital resource. He is demonstrating that the social rules Tang Er relies on for protection just do not apply to him.
And the concept of mianzi, or face, comes into play heavily here too. Tang Er could scream, fight the monk, or cause a massive scene. But doing so would draw the attention of the entire tavern, the owners, and potentially local authorities.
Which is the last thing a fugitive wants.
Right. As a man on the run, causing a public disturbance is terrifying. He is socially trapped. So he accepts the bundle back and sits down opposite the monk. The waiter asks if they want tang mian jiao, which are hot, freshly steamed dumplings. Tang Er orders 10. Jigong immediately echoes him, saying, "I'll have 10 too."
And this initiates a sequence that assaults the biological imperatives of the target.
Oh man, this part is viscerally disgusting. The waiter brings out the steaming bamboo baskets. Tang Er prepares his vinegar and garlic. And then Jigong takes his freshly steamed dumplings and breaks them open with his bare hands. He hawks up a wad of phlegm and spits it directly into the hot food. I know, it gets worse. Then he puts these ruined dumplings into his mouth, chews them into a mash, and spits the chewed-up mess back out. Finally, he removes his filthy, sweat-soaked straw shoes and stuffs the hot, chewed-up dumpling paste directly into the shoes.
It's horrific.
The text explicitly points out that the heat of the food against the unwashed straw creates this suffocating stench of sweaty foot odor that just wafts across the entire room.
You know, the use of disgust here is not merely for comedic or shock value. It is a profound psychological weapon.
How so?
Well, research in evolutionary biology and neuroscience shows that disgust is one of our most primal emotions. It evolved specifically as a pathogen avoidance mechanism.
To keep us from getting sick.
Exactly. When we encounter something that smells of decay or bodily fluids, our brain basically bypasses logical thought and screams at us to get away to avoid contamination.
It overrides everything. You can't plan an escape route when you are actively trying not to vomit. I mean, think about modern psychological operations or extreme interrogations. The interrogator creates an environment so chaotic, so sensory overloading and unbearable that the subject's composure completely shatters.
That's exactly the mechanism. Jigong is actively violating deeply ingrained biological and social norms regarding food and hygiene. He turns a site of nourishment into a literal biohazard.
And Tang Er is paralyzed by it. He slams the chopsticks down, entirely unable to eat the food he just paid for. The waiter reprimands Jigong, saying he's making people nauseous. Jigong's response is to mock Tang Er, slamming his own chopsticks down and whining, "If you're not eating, I still want to eat."
Tang Er is experiencing learned helplessness here. He tries to seek sanctuary. It fails. He tries to eat. The environment becomes too toxic. Every action he initiates is thwarted by unpredictable, escalating chaos.
He is too disgusted to stay, but the disruption is so disorienting he can't figure out how to safely leave without causing the very scene he is trying to avoid.
And this paralysis perfectly sets up the next phase of the breakdown. Resource depletion. With Tang Er's emotional and sensory defenses completely offline, Jigong moves to attack his financial stability and his grasp on reality.
The magical theft. This is where it gets crazy. The waiter comes over to collect payment for the dumplings. The bill is 168 copper cash for each of them. Tang Er is carrying a string of over 600 cash inside his robes. He reaches in to pull out his money. But as he does, Jigong, sitting across the table, mutters a spell. He says, Chi Lingi, and reaches into his own torn pocket. Magically, Jigong pulls out a string of over 600 cash.
And the text is specific about the nature of this magic. Jigong does not conjure new money. He teleports Tang Er's exact string of coins from Tang Er's robes into his own hand.
Tang Er looks at the coins the monk is holding, recognizes his own string, pats his chest, and realizes his money is gone. He is completely bewildered. He actually grunts in confusion, wondering how the money leaped from his waist to the monk's waist.
It's a complete reality distortion.
Yeah. Jigong holds up the coins and asks, is this string of cash yours? Now, you would expect Tang Er to accuse him of theft, but instead, Jigong completely gaslights him, claiming, I picked it up off the floor when I walked in. If it's yours, take it. I don't want it.
Think about the psychological weight of this moment. Tang Er knows he didn't drop the money. He knows he had it secured. But he just watched a beggar defy the laws of physics. Confronting the monk means confronting the impossible.
So what does he do?
He chooses the path of least resistance. He takes the money back and actually praises the monk, saying, Monk, you are a good man. If you weren't so filthy, I would really treat you to a few pots of wine.
Which makes no sense. Why does he praise the person who just magically picked his pocket?
In trauma psychology, this is known as a fawning response.
Oh, like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Exactly. When the instinct to fight or flee is compromised, individuals will sometimes try to appease the source of their distress to avoid further harm. Tang Er is trying to pacify this chaotic force by acting as a benefactor. He believes that by offering a drink, he is reestablishing some semblance of control over the dynamic.
But he is just handing Jigong the rope to hang him with. Jigong immediately accepts the offer and orders 20 pots of wine. The text describes him downing entire pots in single gulps and eating the dumplings 3 at a time. Tang Er sits there, watching this beggar inhale a massive feast, and his anxiety spikes again.
Because he realizes the bill is escalating.
Right. He calculates that the bill is going to far exceed the 600 cash he has in his pocket. He is terrified he will have to open his bundle and expose the stolen funds hidden inside. So, Tang Er tries to establish a boundary. He says, Monk, I'm out of money. Let's not treat each other today. You pay for yours, I pay for mine. We eat at the same table, but we pay separately.
And this is where Jigong executes a brutal psychological reversal. He employs this sort of aggressive, weaponized altruism.
He really does. He adopts this persona of extreme, offended generosity. He says, if you're going to be stingy, today I will pay for even what you ate. How could I let you treat me? I'm the most sincere person. I said I'll pay, so don't argue with me.
It's a complete flip of the script.
Tang Er actually feels embarrassed by the reprimand. Then the waiter brings the combined bill, 2 strings and 280 cash. It is a massive sum. Jigong pucks out his chest and declares, I'll pay. I'm the most sincere. Don't look at my torn robe. I have money.
But the reality is, Jigong possesses absolutely zero currency. He intentionally forces a high-stakes social standoff. He refuses to allow Tang Er to split the bill, demands to pay it himself, but has no means to do so.
He's trapping him.
The waiter demands payment, the monk makes grand, empty promises, and Tang Er is trapped in the center of an excruciating public humiliation.
The tension is agonizing. Tang Er is a fugitive trying to lay low, and now he is the center of a payment dispute in a crowded tavern. His will simply breaks. The text describes him helplessly and aggrievedly opening his precious bundle, the very item he was desperate to keep hidden, pulling out his concealed funds and paying the entire massive bill for the monk's feast.
He is furious, but he capitulates just to make the scene end.
It's financial extortion via fake altruism.
If we evaluate Tang Er's condition at this moment, his defenses have been entirely dismantled. He has been subjected to sensory degradation through the biohazard of the dumplings. His grasp on reality has been undermined by the teleporting coins. He has been socially humiliated and financially drained.
He's got nothing left.
He's physically exhausted, cognitively depleted, and emotionally raw. The preparation phase is complete. The trap is now ready to be sprung.
And this is where we move into the final, most shocking phase of the setup. They finally exit the tavern. Tang Er packs up his bundle, heavily depleted of funds, and begins walking west. Jigong heads east. But just as they separate, Jigong turns, runs back, and physically rips Tanger's bundle right off his back.
The audacity.
Tangers is stunned. He says, "Monk, you ate my 2 strings of cash, and now you want to rob my bundle."
And Jigong reframes the overt theft as an act of selfless service. He says, no, a person must have a human heart. I can't just eat your food for free. I'm going to carry this for you. Isn't that good?
And Tanger is so beaten down he rationalizes it, thinking the monk actually has a conscience. They walk together, but Tanger wants to go west, and Jigong insists he is going east. Tanger finally stops and demands the bundle back. Jigong replies, "I'm holding your bundle for you."
He's baiting him.
Tanger asks point blank, "Monk, are you trying to rob me?"
Yeah.
Jigong, standing in the open street, plainly announces, "Not only am I going to rob you, I am also going to beat you."
It is a moment of absolute transparency. But because it follows hours of manufactured madness, Tang Er cannot process the statement as a literal threat. He assumes it is just more lunacy.
But the madness suddenly crystallizes into sudden shocking violence. Jigong points a finger at Tanger and chants another spell. Om Mani Padme Hum, Chi Ling He. Tanger begins to shiver, his vision blurs, and he falls into a daze.
The magical assault.
While Tanger is magically incapacitated, Jigong steps forward and punches him squarely in the nose. Blood erupts, and Jigong doesn't stop there. He takes the blood pouring from Tanger's face and systematically smears it all over Tanger's bundle. He's manufacturing bloody physical evidence right there on the street.
This action presents a massive moral and philosophical hurdle for modern readers.
I have to be honest, I hit a wall reading this part. Look at what just happened. An authority figure magically incapacitates a suspect, physically assaults him to draw blood, and then uses the victim's own blood to plant evidence on his belongings to frame him for a violent crime. If any law enforcement officer did that today, we would classify them as a dangerous, corrupt criminal. The integrity of the procedural system is everything to us. If you plant evidence, the justice you achieve is inherently corrupt, regardless of whether the person is a bad guy. How does the text justify the quote-unquote hero acting like a corrupt cop?
That is a very vital critique. And to address it, we have to examine the legal and philosophical context of the Song dynasty, which is the setting for these stories.
Okay, let's get into the context.
In that era, local magistrates, the Xixian, were not investigative detectives in the modern sense. They were administrators heavily bound by rigid rules of evidence. To secure a conviction, they generally required either a full confession from the accused or undeniable physical evidence.
So no circumstantial cases.
Very rarely. If a cunning criminal covered their tracks and refused to confess, the magistrate's hands were largely tied. The system was entirely procedural, which meant it could be exploited by those who knew how to hide their sins.
So the system is easily blinded.
Precisely. Now, contrast that procedural limitation with the concept of karmic or divine justice. Within the framework of the novel, Jigong possesses omniscient vision. He doesn't just have a hunch that Tanger is guilty. He possesses absolute objective certainty that Tanger has committed a severe hidden crime that disrupted the moral order.
But the mortal legal system cannot see this crime.
Therefore, Jigong manufactures a fake crime, the bloody assault that the mortal system can see.
He creates a fiction to interface with the bureaucracy. That's crazy.
Yes, the fabricated assault is a karmic crowbar. He is prying open a rigid, blind legal system to force it to examine this man. In this utilitarian philosophical framework, the ends stopping a devastating hidden crime and restoring cosmic balance justify the seemingly corrupt means of the frame-up. The procedural injustice of planting evidence is mathematically canceled out by the absolute justice of exposing the hidden truth.
It's a fascinating debate, though it relies entirely on the infallibility of the person wielding the crowbar. If Jigong is wrong, it's just tyranny. But back to the narrative. Tang Er is bleeding, dazed, and his bundle is covered in his own blood. Jigong grabs him by the collar and marches him straight toward the city gates, heading directly for the Kunshan County Magistrate's office, the Yamen. Bystanders see this bloody spectacle and start asking questions.
And Jigong controls the narrative immediately.
He shouts, "Know your business. It's a case of murder for money." He silences the crowd by invoking a capital offense, dragging the bewildered Tang Er into the halls of justice.
And this is where all of the disparate elements, the medicine primer, the song, the ruined dumplings, the teleported coins, the psychological exhaustion, and the bloody nose, are about to converge into a flawless, razor-sharp epistemological trap in the courtroom.
The courtroom scene is incredible. The magistrate is seated at his desk. Jigong marches in, refuses to kneel, which is a massive violation of court protocol, and begins yelling, "Cloudy sky grandfather." The monk has a grievance.
That specific phrase, Cloudy Sky Grandfather, is a layered insult wrapped in wordplay.
How so?
Well, in historical Chinese culture, a righteous, perceptive judge was reverently referred to as a blue sky grandfather, King Tian Daloi, implying his ability to see justice was as clear and unimpeded as a cloudless sky. By altering it to Cloudy Sky Grandfather, Jigong is openly mocking the magistrate's perception. He is stating that the judge's vision is obscured, that he is fundamentally incapable of seeing the true crimes occurring in his own county without the monk forcing his hand.
That is such a subtle burn. The magistrate's guards demand silence and order the monk to state his formal complaint. Jigong unloads a highly detailed, entirely fabricated narrative. He claims, "I was ordered by my master to sell 200 acres of temple land to raise funds to repair a ruined temple. I collected the silver from the sale, and I was traveling with a firestoker monk."
Adding the details to make it real?
Right. He continues, "The firestoker stepped into the bushes to relieve himself, and I waited for hours. Then, I see this man, and he points directly at Tang carrying my bundle, covered in blood. He murdered my firestoker monk for the money."
It is a breathtaking construction. He provides the magistrate with everything a rigid procedural system requires. A clear motive, which is the temple silver, a victim, the firestoker monk, and the bloody physical evidence sitting right there on the floor.
The magistrate is alarmed by the severity of the claim. He slams his gavel on the desk and demands an answer from Tang. The loud crack of the gavel snaps Tang out of his magical dazed state. He suddenly realizes he is standing in a courtroom accused of a capital crime.
The panic must be overwhelming.
He frantically tries to tell the truth. He pleads, "No, this monk is crazy. He followed me, he ate my food, he punched me in the nose, and he smeared my own blood on my bundle. This bundle is mine."
The magistrate is now faced with a classic deadlock. On one side, a bleeding man claiming assault and framed evidence. On the other, a monk claiming robbery and murder. There are no witnesses to the incident on the road. The system is stalled.
And this is the exact moment Jigong springs the trap he started building in the very first scene of the story. He steps forward and addresses the magistrate. He says, "Your Honor, we don't need to argue. I will write down a complete, exact list of everything inside this bundle."
The ultimate test.
He says, "If he can state exactly what is in the bundle, and my list is wrong, then I am making a false accusation, and you can punish me. But if my list is perfectly accurate, and he cannot say what is inside, then it proves he murdered my companion and stole it."
The magistrate accepts the proposal immediately. From a procedural standpoint, it is a perfectly logical, objective test of ownership. The underlying assumption is universal. Whoever possesses the precise knowledge of a sealed container's contents is the rightful owner.
So Jigong takes a brush and writes down his inventory. He hands the list to the magistrate. It reads, 2 rolls of red silk, 2 rolls of 5-foot white cloth, 1 piece of yellow silk, 200 taels of silver, broken down into exactly 37 pieces, 2 strings of cash, 1 set of old clothes, and 1 pair of shoes with exactly 16 nails in the soles.
Let's examine the mathematical impossibility of this list.
Wait. I have to point this out for the listener. This is the exact list of items from the medicine primer at the beginning of the text. He had his servant, Zhao Fu, pack this specific bundle hours ago.
Yes. During the chaos and the violent altercation on the street, Jigong executed a sleight of hand. He swapped Tang actual bundle for the medicine primer bundle his servant had prepared.
Oh, wow.
Tang is now being asked to identify the contents of a bag he has literally never opened. The genius of the trap lies in the hyperspecificity of the numbers.
The 37 pieces of silver and the 16 nails.
Precisely. If the bundle just contained, like, silver or clothes, Tang might get lucky and guess correctly, as those are common travel items. But Jigong designed the contents to act as a cryptographic key. It is statistically impossible for Tang to guess that the 200 taels are divided into exactly 37 pieces, or that the old shoes have exactly 16 nails.
He can't possibly know.
The track relies entirely on the boundaries of human epistemology. You cannot know what you have not observed.
Tang is completely trapped. He knows the contents of his own bundle, which is likely filled with illicit funds, but that bundle is gone. He is staring at a bag packed by a madman on the other side of the city. By failing this test, by being unable to describe these bizarre, highly specific items, Tang is legally, objectively branded a liar, a robber, and a murderer by the magistrate's own procedural logic.
The false evidence has successfully created an undeniable legal reality.
The magistrate reads the list, opens the bundle, counts exactly 16 nails, counts exactly 37 pieces of silver, and looks at Tang as if he's a monster. Kang Er is condemned.
But the narrative doesn't conclude with a false conviction. The fake crime was merely the mechanism to secure detention and break the suspect's defenses.
Right.
According to the broader text, once Tang Er is legally detained and his psychological resilience is entirely shattered by this impossible situation, the real investigation commences. The incident unravels Tang Er's actual hidden crime.
Yeah, because this was never about a firestoker monk. Tang Er was actually the mastermind in a plot to violently steal family property and ruin a chaste widow named Zhao Yuzhen.
This is a crime of conspiracy and hidden malice. The exact type of crime the Cloudy Sky magistrate would never have uncovered on his own because there was no overt physical evidence until the damage was already done.
The system would have failed her.
Exactly. Jigong recognized the threat, bypassed the limitations of the procedural system by orchestrating a fabricated crime, and brought the true villain into the light before the widow could be destroyed.